Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight as we talk about the many health benefits of one of the most simple practices, walking. This live speaker series is brought to you by Encore Retreats, which hosts these thought-provoking community conversations once a month and leads content-rich experiential retreats around the world. I'm Jennifer Sullivan, the co-owner and memory maker of Encore Retreats. And tonight we are so excited to introduce you to Joyce Shulman. Hi, Joyce.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
It is our pleasure. In a world that's constantly moving, Joyce is an advocate for the simple yet profound power of walking. As the co-founder and CEO of 99 Walks and Jetti Fitness, she has harnessed the transformative potential of intentional walking practices, which makes fitness and well-being accessible for countless individuals. Joyce is a frequent speaker, host of the Weekly Walk podcast, a veteran of the TEDx stage, and author of the book, Walk Your Way to Better. But most importantly, Joyce is a joyful wanderer, and her goal is to empower 1 million women to walk their way to better. Joyce, we are so excited to have you here with us tonight.
I am excited to be here this evening.
Joyce is being interviewed by my business partner, Lisa Waltuck, who is the content creator of Encore Retreats. Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
A quick housekeeping note, we definitely encourage you to ask questions. And if you would, please put them in the Q&A box rather than the chat so we can keep better track of them. Joyce will answer those questions at the end of the interview, and we'll also send out a recording of this session via email within the next few days. Now, without further ado, I will turn it over to Lisa and Joyce.
Thanks, Jen. There's so much I want to know about the world of walking because it is so much more vast than we would think. And I know for me and many I know, when the pandemic hit, it drove me outdoors. I always liked walking, but I started walking like crazy. I would sometimes just wander about and it would be 10 miles later. I just needed something to do and to get myself out of the house. And I know even now that people continue to walk. And again, with at least my circle of friends, getting coffee together has been replaced by let's take a walk. So I'm wondering what got you started and how have you made walking your mission?
Oh, well, I've always been someone who walks. It's just something I've always loved to do. I like the freedom of it, and I like the feeling and sort of the empowerment I felt of being able to get from one place to another under the power of my own 2 legs, right? So I'm talking about when I was young, when I was a kid, when I was a teenager. But there's a moment, and before we got started, we were talking a little bit about our dads. So I'm a daddy's girl for sure. And I remember this day, and I've shared this story many times, but it's really has that clarity in my memory. I remember this day when I was about 16, I was in high school, and I came home from school in a terrible mood. And I don't know at this point, whether it was mean girls or a bad grade or like I was 16, so it could have been nothing. But I walked in my house and it was a beautiful spring day. And my dad took one look at me and he said, "Go for a walk and then we'll talk." My dad was a lifelong athlete and physical education teacher and believed in the power of movement. And I took his advice and I dropped my backpack on the couch in the den and I walked out the door and I walked 2 miles. And I know because years later I went and I mapped, used a map app to see how far it was. So I walked 2 miles. And what I discovered, what I realized is that when I walked back in the house, my mood had significantly shifted. And that was the moment when I realized that I had the power to use this modality to impact how I felt. And from there on, it became something that I leaned on just throughout my whole life. I gained a lot of weight in college, despite being a dance major while I was in college. Somehow I managed to, it didn't go well. And I really walked that weight off. I've walked with my friends for me as well. Gosh, I can't remember the last time I met a friend for coffee, right, Lisa? Because like you, it's let's take a walk. Let's take a walk. I walked with 2 of my dear friends early this morning. So it's just become part of my life. And I guess I'm fortunate that way because it's not a practice I've had to build. It's just been something that I've done.
And I love that you noticed that it improved your mood. And you talk a lot about how there are so many benefits, including physical and mental. And I just want you to tell us a little bit about what you've discovered as you took a deep dive into walking.
Very, very deep dive, very deep dive. And I say that because one of the things, and I don't know if this was spurred in part by the pandemic or not, but the depth of the research on the power of walking, I think it's been fueled by a few things over the past number of years, but wow, there's so much research out there. And the way I sort of organize the benefits in my mind is the benefits of walking for your mind, your mood, and your body, because there are very important benefits, distinct benefits in each of those three pillars. So shall I run through a few of them?
That would be great. Yep.
So starting with the mind. So we'll start a little bit with the brain structure. So there's some very interesting research. So the unfortunate piece of news is that for most of us, starting at about age 50, our brains actually really do start to deteriorate and we start to lose gray matter of our brains, which is sort of the part of our brain that does the work, at a rate of between 1% and 3% a year, which is a lot, right? I mean, I want all the brain I can get. So there is research that shows that a regular walking practice can actually reverse that trend. And instead of your brain losing gray matter and volume, you can actually gain between 1% and 2% a year. So that's a pretty big shift. So we're talking about actually helping you form new neurons and making your brain bigger. The other key piece of your brain is the white matter, which is like the connective tissue. Is this too technical? Is this boring or is this interesting?
No, it's helpful.
Okay.
It's helpful. And it's kind of eye-opening, I think, like that we can reverse that trend.
Amazing, right? So the white matter of your brain, the best way to think of it is the scaffolding of your brain and the way that signals are moved around your brain. Walking has been shown to strengthen the white matter as well. So that's sort of a little bit of the structure of your brain. When you start talking about how our brains function, walking has been shown to improve our executive function, boost our energy, fuel our brains with oxygen. And one of my favorite studies is a study out of Stanford University that shows that a 20-minute walk can boost your creativity by 60%. And those benefits last for several hours after the walk. So like we live in a culture where if we have a question or we're trying to figure something out, like we tend to think what we need is one more Google search, right? When what we really may need is to walk away and let our brains really do the work. So those are just some of the benefits to our brain structure and how our brains work. Also helps with decision fatigue, resetting decision fatigue, so many things. And then moving on to mood, I'll start sort of at the end, which is walking has been shown to be as powerful for many people, not all people, but for many people as medication to treat mild depression and anxiety. They have done studies where they put one group on meds, they send one group out for regular walks, and they've seen profound benefits. So I always say that like there's nothing better to restart a crappy day than a walk. So mood, all the mood boosting benefits, both of the physical activity and being in nature. And then last, but certainly not least, is benefits for your body. So a regular walking practice has been shown to materially reduce your risk of high blood pressure, diabetes, several types of cancer, all kinds of things. So yeah, does it all, right? What other activity can you do that's basically free, that is a very low barrier to doing it? You literally just have to put on your sneakers and walk out the door and can impact your mind, your mood, and your body in a really profound way. I will now crawl off of my soapbox.
No, I love that description. And I know I'm my other job is I was a designer. And when I was in graduate school and I would be stuck with a creative problem, unable to think of ideas or whatever, and I had been a gymnast, I would walk around on my hands. And my thought would be like, if I just got all the blood to my head, maybe it could be more creative. And it worked for me. It was successful. And we interviewed a woman who's she was an Olympic athlete, and she was talking to us about fitness. And one of her suggestions was to walk backwards because it uses a different mechanics and it kind of stretches your brain in a different way. It makes you think in a different way. And so I like knowing all the different types of walking, maybe unconventional.
Yeah. So there is a study out there that showed that walking backwards could also help your short-term memory. So like if you can't remember where you left your keys, they suggest walking backwards will help trigger that short-term memory.
That's really interesting. I know you also said some benefits for walking with others, just kind of the social aspect, and how does that help us?
Oh, so many ways. So walking together has been shown to be really good for conflict resolution. So in kind of those intimate relationships, when you have stuff to work out, it gives you the benefit of walking shoulder to shoulder. When my firstborn became a teenager, I was like, oh, I don't know what this journey is all about, right? So I did all the reading because that's what you do, right? There's got to be a book that's going to teach me how to better parent a teenager. And one of the things that I read that I've always remembered is treat your teenager like a wild animal. And don't look them in the face. Like, don't look them in the eyes if you want to talk to them. And so many parents will say, I have the best conversations while we're driving together. And it's a similar kind of thing, but walking does that as well. And then while you're walking, you get all of those benefits of the creativity, of the reduced cortisol, of the increased oxytocin, which is the hormone that helps us bond with others and makes us more empathetic. And there's research that shows that when we walk together, our oxytocin fires up. And then one of the things that I always observe is it's a lot more comfortable to take moments of quiet when you're walking with somebody than it is when you're sitting, across from them having a cup of coffee. Like, think for a second, like you're sitting with somebody having a cup of coffee and you're going to sit in silence for 30 seconds, which doesn't sound that long until you're staring at somebody. But if you're out walking and you're having that kind of meaningful conversation and you take a pause, you can really let yourself think about what it is you're talking about. And you're also sharing an experience, and there's benefits to sharing an experience.
I know, it's true. I know I take morning walks with my husband sometimes, and those are some of the best conversations, and with my teenagers also. But I want to move on because I know we have limited time to just talk about, you discuss 4 different types of walking. So can you tell us about those?
Yeah, so I have 4 different types of walks I take, and this is super personal to me. Like there's no science or data around this, but I really do take these different kinds of walks. So sometimes I walk in silence and I just let my mind go wherever it's going to go. And those kinds of walks are really good when I'm having one of those days where I'm buzzing, right? There's too much going on. There's too much on my mind and I'm buzzing. Then sometimes I take walks where I intentionally will put something in my mind that I'm trying to work out. Like you were saying, Lisa, how you would walk on your hands when you were stuck on a project. Sometimes when I'm stuck on something I'm trying to work through, and there's a little bit of a mindfulness exercise because my mind will drift, and I'll bring it back to that topic because I'm really trying to work through that problem. Sometimes I just want to lose myself and like rack up the miles, right? Like I want that feeling of tired at the end. And those are the walks when I'll fire up a playlist that, kind of has you dancing down the trail. It's a completely different experience. Or sometimes a book where I just want to go. Like I don't want to think. I just want to go and be distracted and move my body. And the last we've talked about, which is walks with friends and people I care about. So right. I will really deploy those different kind of styles of walking based on what I feel like I need.
Right. I love that. I love that, like tuning into yourself and what you need, and then deciding how to go out and set out on your walk. I know you started 99 Walks, which is an app, and your mission is to get 1 million people walking. So tell us how you're doing on that goal and how you track it. And if you've had any stories of people having aha moments by starting their journey walking.
So many of those things. So thank you. 99 Walks is a social fitness app focused on women, wellness, and walking. And we encourage our members to set their own walking goals every month. And we all work towards and work around and discuss and explore a given theme of the month. The theme for this month is You Choose. The theme for last month was Live an Adventure. And it gives us kind of an anchor, right, of things to really reflect on throughout the month. So we have had thousands and thousands of women in the community. We have thousands of people we have a Facebook group that's open to everybody. So really supportive, fun, interesting, wonderful people in that group. And yeah, it's been quite a journey. We launched 99 Walks about 5 months before the pandemic. So that was an interesting
Perfect timing.
That was an interesting journey for sure. And the people whose stories really resonate with me truly are the people who have never had a meaningful physical activity practice. And I talk a lot about how what I refer to as the fitness industrial complex has left behind so many people and has taught us and told us that fitness and wellness looks a certain way and is for certain people. And if you can't wear this and look like this and do this, and if it doesn't burn, it doesn't count. Like, we have been really told some stories around this. So it's the people who are not interested or comfortable going into a gym and who haven't understood or appreciated that a regular walking practice can really be transformative for them physically, mentally, emotionally, and kind of have those aha moments.
I think that's great. And I think that you offer so many varieties of walking and coaches. So you have motivational coaches, you have things like chair walking and house walking. So for people that may live in a climate that it's impossible to go outdoors some of the time, whether it's too hot or too cold or too snowy or too icy.
Yep.
So can you tell us just a snippet about your coaches and some of those indoor practices?
Yeah, so we have some treadmill classes, of which I personally am not a fan because I hate walking on a treadmill. I loathe it. And I know some people love it, queue up a class, queue up a video, but chair walking is really focused on people who, for whatever reason, really are not walking at that point. And it tends to be, I sort of have a philosophy of do what you can, right? Ask yourself, what can I do? Because it's really easy to get frustrated with the things you can't do. And we've got to reprogram our brains to ask ourselves, what can I do? So if you can't walk, you can sit in a chair and you can move your feet up and down as if you're walking, and do a slew of other things that are valuable in and of themselves and also can be a step forward to get you back to walking. And yeah, our coaches are great, mostly audio classes, some video, but really designed to take with you.
That's great. I also like the idea of full body walking because I've had people kind of criticize walking as your only exercise because it's not full body enough. And I myself, after an injury, have had experience walking with walking sticks and have been amazed at how it takes care of my joints. So tell us a little bit about your product and what full body walking is.
Yeah. So about a year and a half ago, we launched a product called Jetti poles. They are the first fitness poles for walking. They are patent pending. We have patents pending on 4 different features of them. I'll tell you in a year how that plays out. They're a little bit heavier than your traditional hiking or trekking poles, and they're really designed to activate your upper body. And it's so surprising how much work that is in a very gentle kind of way. But I'll give you sort of this piece of it, right? So Jetti poles weigh about a pound a piece. The average person takes about 2,000 steps with every mile they walk. That means if you walk a mile, just 1 mile with Jetti poles, you are literally moving 2,000 pounds worth of weight.
That's incredible. That is a
right?
lot.
If you look at it
Yes.
that way,
Yes.
we've had them in for lab studies. People burn an average of 55.6% more calories, even though the perceived exertion, as you experienced, it sort of feels easier. It's easier on your joints. It doesn't feel harder. And yet your body is working harder because you're distributing that work across so many more muscles.
Right. It's like swimming. Like I think of swimming as such a good exercise because you seem to be using all your limbs, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, Joyce, there's so much more to cover. Before we started filming, I had a million questions, but I'm going to ask you our last signature questions before our audience chimes in with all of their questions, which is, can you tell us 3 action items that we can take tomorrow that can start to like dip our toe into walking if we haven't been walkers, or if we have been walkers, how to change it up a little bit?
So yeah, the first is take a walk. And what I mean by that, and I'm actually going to put a little bit of context around that. Everybody out there is, I shouldn't say everybody, but people are counting their steps, closing the rings on their phone, all the things. I am a big advocate of more movement and more physical activity is great for most of us, but take an intentional walk. It's not just about parking at the far side of the parking lot. It's about carving out some measure of time to step away from your computers, away from your dishes, away from your work, away and just be. And if that's 10 minutes, that's awesome. If that's 5 minutes, that's good too. So that's first, is take an intentional walk. The second is remind yourself that every step counts. So going back to what we were talking about briefly before around this idea that if you only have 10 minutes, we are so likely to tell ourselves, why bother? And the last is, if I could encourage people to add one more thing to their lives, and I'm working on this myself. I am not there yet. This is like so hard for me. Take a 5-minute walk after dinner, because the research shows that that has a disproportionate impact on your blood sugar levels and really, really good to stave off diabetes and help your whole system. 5 flipping minutes after dinner, which we all have. So hard to get out the door, but 5 minutes after dinner, that's it.
That's great. I love that even that can have such a huge impact.
Honestly, when you read the studies on that and you sort of read the articles, you sort of get the sense that even the researchers were like, well, that worked a lot better than we thought.
It's surprising. Yeah.
Joyce, we've got some great questions here for you. The first one, do you agree with those who recommend a midfoot strike rather than a heel strike for safe walking, especially on pavement?
I am not a kinesiologist, though I have interviewed several, and I don't think there's one answer to that. I think it does depend a little bit on your physiology, depends a little bit on the shoes you're wearing, but for most people, the preferred gait or the preferred foot strike is actually greeting the ground. I don't like using the word strike the ground, right? Because we don't want to, we want to greet the ground, heel first, and roll forward towards the front of our foot.
Got it. Got it. The next question has to do with shoes. Is there a certain brand you recommend, or is that different for everyone? How do you get fitted for the right shoes?
Oh my gosh. So I am just about finished with my new book, which is much more technical deep dive into walking. And in that context, I did a lot of research on shoes, and I talked to a lot of podiatrists and kinesiologists. And the unfortunate answer to this is there is no best shoe. It is completely personal. There are some very good shoe fitters out there. If you go to a good quality walking store, sneaker store, athletic store, you can get some good advice. There is a little bit of trial and error, unfortunately, because they're not cheap. But getting advice from other people, my friend Susie swears by her Hokas. My friend Liz loves her Brooks. It is a little bit personal.
No such thing as an easy fix, huh?
No,
Well,
unfortunately not.
that's understandable.
But I will add this actually also, which comes from some of the experts who I've interviewed, is that there is value in also changing up your shoes, because different shoes, and this is what I do actually, different shoes, sneakers, tennies, whatever you call them, you will have different kinds of impact on the ground. So while you may have your best shoes for long walks, that you can go do that 10 miles in, for shorter things, for different things, try to change them up a little bit.
Is there a certain frequency that you recommend that be done at? Or is it a number of steps?
No, it really it's such a personal thing. My daughter was running track, and we went out and we bought her, we spent an hour in the store, we bought her expensive running shoes, and she ran in them for 2 weeks and had shin splints so severe it took her out for the entire season, entirely caused by this pair of shoes that all sorts of other people run in all the time. There was nothing wrong with the shoes except for her.
Can I add a question related to that, Jen?
Of course.
Do you have any point of view on barefoot walking, benefits, drawbacks, or personal preference?
Yes, all of the above. Barefoot walking can be great. Definitely, most of us could really benefit from spending more time barefoot. You have to work into that slowly. You have to be careful because there is a risk. Anytime you're barefoot, you're putting your feet at risk. Doing big miles barefoot, unless you're really acclimated to that, can cause you all kinds of problems, but it's a piece that should be part of your practice. I come from a family and a sort of a culture. We get up in the morning, we put on our socks, we slam our feet into sneakers, and that's how we go for the day. Not the best plan. All those muscles and ligaments and all the things in there, they got to get stronger.
Joyce, we have a question about your podcast. It's called The Weekly Walk, correct?
Yep.
And can people find that everywhere they find other podcasts? Okay.
Yep. iTunes and Spotify out in the world. And then it's also in our app for our members as well.
And the app again is 99 Walks.
99.
And that can be found in the App Store?
Yep.
Okay. We have another question here about walking for weight loss, but I'll ask if you can answer that in writing, because we're getting close to the end of our time, and then we'll include that answer in the follow-up that we send out to everybody.
Can I answer it really quick?
Of course, of course.
It totally helps. Walk. It helps with weight loss. Not only does it burn calories, but it has a really good impact on reducing cravings for crappy food. And it's something to do, so you're not sitting at your table eating chips. So yes, walking for weight loss.
Love it.
But I'll answer it more fully if the question's more specific.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, your resource, your passion. We appreciate it immensely.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thanks you guys so much for having me. It was really fun.
Of course. We want to tell everyone about our next upcoming event on September 26th. Lisa and I are kicking off a multi-day virtual conference on how to rock the empty nest. We have over 30 speakers sharing their expertise on the 4 primary areas needed to be addressed to prepare for the next best phase of your life. And they are logistics, wellness, relationship, and what's next. Within those 4 areas, we cover everything from finances and nutrition to how to reclaim your identity, how to have better sex, and how to strategically reinvent yourself. Then, by popular demand, we added a bonus day all about unique travel experiences. So that's something you definitely don't want to miss. And our speakers have very generously offered amazing resources. Lisa, do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, we have all sorts of resources from free consulting with a financial planner to a nutritionist guided recommendations to discussions with a mental health specialist, ideas to plan your future if you want to change your career, check in with yourself, decide what your values are, a glossary of feelings to identify how you can talk to other people. There's just so many resources there that are invaluable. It really is a treasure trove. And each speaker recommended 3 books plus their extra books. So it's a collection of about over 100 books recommended by our experts.
It's amazing. I love that you call it a treasure trove because it is just that. The conference itself is free. We definitely are trying to make this content available to as many people as possible. So we will include a link to that in the email that we send out to follow up. And if you want to join us for any of our other adventures, future community conversations, or the actual retreats, please feel free to join our mailing list or follow us on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn. Thank you for joining us tonight. We do really appreciate your feedback. So a short 5-question survey will pop up on your screen at the end of this webinar. And we look forward to seeing everybody again soon. Have a fantastic evening.